All right, hello and welcome everybody to Richard and Rhodes. Josh, great to be with you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Been traveling, and because of that, I feel like I'm possibly catching a cold, but that doesn't make me any less excited about today. Yeah, I appreciate you having me back, man.
Awesome. Great to be here. All right, what's on everybody's mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's on the common mind?
Lots on our minds. I think I wanted to start in somewhat of I'm going to call it a silly place, though you may shock me here and tell me this is a significant impact on the economy or something. You're able to see my screen?
Got it.
Okay. Again, this is somewhat silly, but the Senate, this is, I guess, 2 weeks ago now, passed the Sunshine Protection Act. Parents are obviously excited about this. If it's cleared and signed by the president, this would basically X out daylight savings times permanently as of November 2023. I went through and I was like, man, this is kind of interesting. So I pulled some studies and 70% of Americans agree this needs to be passed. What's more interesting, though, it's like a 50-50 cut is, do we leave the hour in the day or do we leave the hour at nighttime? And so I wanted to just get your preference on this, man. I think if we have the hour during the day, it's better for the economy. Everybody's able to pump and move. If you have an hour better at night, it's better for circadian rhythm and how we act as humans. And so I'm curious if you had any a take on this.
I love circadian rhythms, especially being the chair of the Foundation for the Study of Cycles. I think circadian rhythms are highly undervalued. So, but it's interesting. The daylight savings time has its origins in energy conservation. And, so when you get home in the evening, if you have more daylight, you don't have to use as many utilities, right? So I think that was part of the thesis of why daylight savings time would be valuable. But then you have to move it back, especially for the people in the northern latitudes, right? Who, like, in the middle of winter, you're driving to work at 9 a.m. in the dark, right? So anyway, I'm in favor of not having the clocks move back and forth. I think that is very disruptive to circadian rhythms. I think it takes a couple of weeks to recalibrate. And I think that does have significant impacts on people's productivity and on, people's sanity. So I think the changing of the clocks is a terrible idea. I think that part of this proposal was that some of the central and mountain times, especially in the northern latitudes, could kind of stay back an hour instead of stay ahead an hour, right? So it would mess up the time zones, but anything we can do to stop this madness of, spring forward and fall back sounds good to me.
It's exhausting. It's disruptive. It's exhausting. I don't think you'd get any pushback on that. And
I would have, before you mentioned that about circadian rhythms, I would have gone with the, extra hour of daylight at night. But, that's a great point. And I do think we need to give a lot more love to our circadian rhythms and to the need to rest and to not being such, workaholics.
When we typically kick off this meeting, I would typically like to start with just a temperature check of how is the economy, where are we at? So this is more of a first question type, but today being Friday, on Tuesday, the US yield curve for the first time in a while actually inverted. And historically, that has been a pretty good indicator that there's a recession on the horizon. In fact, let's see if I have another graph here to show you. I do. Every recession in the last 50 years has had a yield curve inversion preceding it. So I just, with Tuesday, that's just 2-3 days ago. This is my finger to the pulse of where are we at? How are you feeling? Just a sort of temperature check here.
I think this particular indicator, the so-called yield curve inversion, it is a serious one. The best analysis I've heard on it, though, is that a big part of why this yield curve has inverted right now is because of the Fed, the Fed's tipping of the scales on the 10-year rates, keeping them artificially low by buying them, right? Buying bonds lowers yields. So they've been a buyer and they're going to stop. They're starting to stop the quantitative easing, and eventually they'll probably try some quantitative tightening. That was when we had some real disasters in the past. The Fed's between a rock and a hard place, but I don't think that this particular yield curve inversion is quite as compelling as some of the ones we've seen in the past. And yes, yield curve inversions have predicted recessions, but there's also been false positives. So I think this one is probably a little more of a false positive, but it's definitely some headwinds. I mean, look at the steepness of how fast, that yield curve has inverted. That's serious stuff. And economically, there are serious headwinds. We've got major geopolitical disruptions. We've got the Fed raising rates. We've got inflation out of control. I don't think we're out of the COVID woods myself. And we have a lot of, the markets are anticipatory, right? They anticipate the future, okay? So markets have already bet on an economic recovery, right? That's why we had this huge rally out of COVID and, when the vaccines came online, et cetera. So that future growth, which I do think is there, has already been priced into the market, right? The question is there more future growth beyond that? And I see more headwinds than not. And I think the Fed's between a rock and a hard place. I'm very skeptical about this rally that we're in the midst of right this moment. But I also have been around long enough to know that what I think doesn't really, the market doesn't care. So, but I'm cautious, I'm hedged. I am very attentive right now. There was an old, not an old, but, in law enforcement, there's these kind of like threat levels, right? Red, orange, white, you're like, don't really have to pay close attention. You get to orange and red. It's like, you got to be watching out. So that's where we are in the markets right now. I think the threat level is high. Doesn't mean that, there's going to be a big crash. But it's a time when you really got to be paying attention. So I'm paying close attention.
This is why I love this conversation is I take a headline, like me running the podcast on the side, I'm in the financial world lots. And I saw lots of folks share this exact graph and cause fear and have the headlines. And that's why I look forward to this is I can pluck that
narrative machine. That's the narrative machine taking a headline like this and trying to get viral, right? And people should basically be ignoring it unless, if you're going to spend, look, if I see this headline, I'm going to look at it, right? But then I'm going to go look for other sources to try to get a deeper understanding of what's going on and what's different this time.
Totally.
But, you just take a headline and it can really mess up your mind. And believe me, the market, plenty of people out there are happy to take your money when your mind's messed up.
This is my zoomed out view. If I zoomed in and I'm asking more of a tactical question here, Tesla recently announced that they're preparing or getting ready to do another split. My question is, I'm happy to take feedback on Tesla and we could beat these guys up for a second if you want, but I'm more curious in what this means as a whole. When you see a company splitting, maybe it's a company you've been looking at or you're invested in, does that get you excited? Does that get you nervous? Does it have any impact at all? Are you indifferent? Like what does this mean to you as an investor? If that question makes sense.
I hate stock splits. I hate that stocks rally on stock splits. GameStop just mentioned a stock split. I don't know if you saw that or not. GameStop's going to split its stock.
Beautiful.
The thesis is that more people will be able to participate in the stock if it costs less. and I always go back to, forgive me, Mom, if you're watching this, but my mom telling me last year that Dogecoin was cheap because it cost, 70 cents a coin, right? And now they're pricing coins in like fractions of a penny, 0.0001 cents. If you can get more, because you can buy more of it. So this does not change the value of Tesla whatsoever. It doesn't add 1 ounce of new value to Tesla. But I think Tesla rallied like 10% when they announced a stock split, right? So, the price on per share doesn't matter. It's the price per share times the number of shares that gives you your market capitalization.
That's right.
So for market capitalization to pop on a stock split, to me, it's like the worst part of the investing world, because it adds no value to the company. It's just the thesis that more retail investors will pile into it.
There is I want to talk about maybe some silly investment strategies or something that I saw in the last few weeks that it's like it caught my eye. I'm going to shift it over here. Tom Brady, retired, unretired, retired, unretired. I don't know if you're a football follower or fan, but after retiring, his final football touchdown pass was auctioned off for $512,626. It's like the very next day he came out of retirement, and so I would assume this ball's like $100 now. But that's not the point. My question is, have you ever gone outside of the lines? Like we talk about tickers, we talk about gold, we talk about crypto, we talk about have you ever invested just on a whim or with purpose in something different, man? Like a Pokemon card or I don't know, rocks. Like I'm just curious if there's anything interesting sitting in that portfolio. You have a football helmet somewhere?
I don't right now, actually. I've never really done collectibles too much. I've had some friends who have done them, and they can be quite compelling. I did collect baseball cards when I was a kid. And this week, the past couple of weeks, I've been exploring the play to earn world a little bit. So I guess you could say I now own some NFTs. But no, I've never really made a significant investment into collectibles.
The play to earn world. I'll double dip on that here in a second. I'm not much of a collectibles guy either, but when I was a kid, my grandmother and I collected Pokemon cards, and I didn't play with them, but we did. I have stacks and stacks of binders of really pristine Pokemon cards. So it went from like in the attic to, as they rose in value, I took them out of the attic. I put them on the ground level. Now they're in like a box. Like I've slowly started to safe in them and protect them. But yeah, it's crazy how things like that pop.
And I think one of the things going on in the world right now is you have more and more exchanges, more and more ability to price assets, right? So Pokemon cards, footballs, NFTs, right? And this is why I say Web3 is essentially financial, right? I think the internet is financial. And it's this ability to have these transactions and these exchanges of value and to assign price data, to almost anything today, right? And that does really open up this kind of element of price discovery that the markets, have some capacity for, with stocks, now cryptos, et cetera. And I think that price discovery process is now extending, into all kinds of different assets. And that's actually one of the reasons that I'm so fired up about being able to help people better use the basic tools of finance, around risk management and correlation and position sizing, et cetera. And because all of these things are now essentially investable assets, and it's just going to keep getting more and more in that direction.
You talking about the play to earn world. Let me shift to that for a second. Shut this down. I'll just quickly show this, and I think I'm going to unpack it in the next call we have, but it's at least a cool teaser. We've talked about Bored Apes. We've talked about these big NFTs. The top 3 NFT companies here over the last 2 or 3 weeks have merged. Bored Ape Yacht Club's actually acquired the other 2, and they've raised funding. I'll talk about this in the next one, but they have slowly started to release restaurants and a roadmap of where they're headed. And as we talk about, where's the beef, I'm gonna keep my eyes on these guys. The play to earn world, though, is what I wanted to talk to you a second on. I don't know if you've heard or seen of STEPN, but this is okay. Super, super cool company. Just total transparency. I haven't bought an NFT of theirs. This is just, I crossed paths with them and thought it was cool. We're talking about, where's the beef? I thought this has a little bit of on the bone.
Okay. You got my interest. What's happening? What are they doing?
Yeah. They're, so right now they have 50,000 users, and on a daily basis, they're seeing, I would call sort of an hyper growth phase. They're seeing a pretty good increment of users join the platform. And it's on the Solana network. And basically you go in and you buy a pair of shoes from these guys, and they pay you to walk or pay you to run. When I say you buy a pair, when I say you buy a pair of shoes, you buy an NFT. You would go through their marketplace, these different shoes or NFTs that you would acquire for about $1,000. Each of them have a different attribute, a different skill set. Some of them ask you to run, some of them ask you to walk, some of them ask you to jump, some of them are extra lucky. They give you box drops, all sorts of weird things, right? And each day they give you 100 minutes, an increment of time where you can go walk, go run, you can be on the move. And as you're moving, you fill this bar up, your earning cap bar. And at the end of the day, the week, whatever it is, you've built up enough coins where you can actually repurchase shoes in the marketplace. You can add attributes to your skill sets and, make your shoes better. Or you can take the coins, the tokens that you're earning from the game, transfer them over to USDC and pull cash right out of the app. And so you're being paid to exercise on a daily basis here.
That's very cool.
It's not as cool as the funding to the Ukraine that I pulled up in our last meeting, but as we're talking about these guys have so much potential, and we're talking about trying to color outside the lines. There's no traditional business today that's going to pay you to go on runs. And so I maybe take some feedback on you on this, but more, I think you mentioned you've been dabbling in a few others. So curious if you had any feedback at all on just where this thing's headed.
Look, I think this is a great idea. Love it. The big obstacle is whether or not these blockchains can scale. So I'm been playing Crabata. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a play to earn game built on AVAX, the Avalanche network, right? I don't know exactly what the relationship between Avalanche and Ethereum is, but in order to play this game, a simple digital game, it costs me like $6 to $8 round trip to say, hey, go to my wallet and pay my gas to let me play the game, right? And then the game, you have some earnings during the game, and then you got to take those earnings back and put them into your wallet, right? So that's costing $6 to $8 just to play the game, right? So I don't know what it costs here, and I don't know what the structure is of their blockchain, right? So there's lots of different ways to do blockchains these days. But the big thing that I'm not really seeing is the ability to have micropayments and to do these transactions at less than the cost that you can do them with, say, a Visa or a MasterCard, right? Like it would be cheaper for me for that Crabata game to use Visa or MasterCard, and pay 35 cents or $1 or something, Totally. I'm paying $6, $8 to play the game. So that's not going to work. And then I think that there's lots of different ways that people are trying to solve that problem. But I think the complexity of how people are going about trying to solve that problem is expanding, right? It's not getting simpler. right? You have all these on chains and off chains and side chains, and nobody can really explain to me how it works, right? And there's all kinds of hand waving, like, oh no, just wait for Ethereum 2 and wait, oh, look at this side chain over here. Look what they're doing. No, the simple premise of a blockchain, the simple premise of Satoshi's white paper, is that we can have micropayments, right? We can have peer-to-peer micropayments. And I just don't see that happening. So I see all kinds of great, compelling applications. I'm not seeing the scalability, except in one blockchain, which is the heretical blockchain for all the rest of blockchains, which is BSV. So some friends of mine built a play-to-earn game. I invested in their company. It's called Duro Dogs. And Duro Dogs is built on the BSV network. They did like 20,000 transactions in a day for a total of $3.
Wow.
If they had done those same transactions on Ethereum, it would have cost $275,000. $3 for 20,000 transactions, $275,000 for 20,000 transactions. So that's the issue. The issue is scalability. The issue isn't how compelling a user experience can you come up with, how novel of an idea can you come up with. The issue is it gonna scale? Because right now, the only people that can afford to do it are the people that already have it, right? This is not going to change the world. It's not going to bank the unbanked. It's not going to open up a whole new economy of value because more people can participate in a micropayments based economy where you can have exchanges of value of a penny or a dollar, peer to peer, right? That's what's going to open up new value. But right now, you have all these VCs funding these exciting projects like this, but it's only going to be the rich getting richer. And it's not going to really change the economy in the way that Bitcoin really has the potential to do. So, so that's my concern. This is a great application. I love it. Really interesting. Kind of makes me think about how I might be able to use some of the same principles for investing. How do I get investors to do the right behaviors, right? This is behavioral incentivization. And so I love it. I love it. Fantastic. It's got to scale. And it can't just be a bunch of VC money with the chains getting more and more complicated to where people don't even really know, what's happening with their money and what the rules are on this chain or that chain or another chain. No, it's got to be simple and it's got to scale.
Your point of scalability is something I wasn't ready for, but I think it's probably the best point. Well, what I was more prepared for was the security issues. And I bring this up. I almost had a topic I wanted to talk about today, but I feel like I bring it up every time. That's if there's two buckets of concerns here, it's like these things are being built and there's new on ramps and off ramps and there's all this chaos.
Like to play Krabata, I have to go to Coinbase and buy some Avalanche, and then I have to move it over to MetaMask, right? And then I have to go to some third place where I can exchange Avalanche for the coin that the play to earn game uses, right?
Right.
And then that's in my MetaMask wallet, and then I can earn that new coin, but then I have to go back to this other, decentralized exchange and convert it back into Avalanche, and then I have to go back to Coinbase and put it in there to change it back to USD.
There's just so much room for error and risk.
So much room for error. There's
exposure.
So much room for, I'm on 3 different platforms at that point, right? Or 4.
Yeah.
And there's room for security breaches on every one.
100%.
So that's not going to work. It's not going to work. I mean, it's lots of hand waving and lots of hype opportunities, but it's not scalable. And
something that is working. And I don't even know if I have a question here. Maybe I think my question is like, what is the magic? But You did what is this, a 35-minute video. This was earlier this week. You and Justin talked about this deep dive, a portfolio you built 45 days ago now, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't want you to walk through the portfolio. You've done that here. I'll point folks to this video and then go watch that. But the portfolio is crushing, and you made it in less than 20 minutes. The risk efficiency is greater than 3. Really compact histogram. It looks like a little sailboat that we've talked about. What is the magic, man? What's the secret? You know, people wait until they're in their deep 20s, early 30s before they ever put a nickel into the market, just from an investment standpoint. You sat on a live Zoom with no cuts and built a portfolio that's beating the market in 20 minutes. I just help me connect the dots, man. What's the magic?
I think there's a couple of things. One is, I am a pretty experienced investor at this point. I do pay a lot of attention to the markets, and I think I have some reasonable theses about what's going on. So, I've been in commodities for a while now. I've been expecting inflation. So, but the bottom line is, like, we put the portfolio together using the tools that professionals use to put their portfolios together, right? And that is, make sure your position sizes are right, and make sure that, as much as possible, your investments are uncorrelated. So you got to have good uncorrelated investments. And that's what this tool helps you to do, and helps you to do it in a very short period of time. So look, you got to have good, right? But they also have to be uncorrelated, and you have to have the right amounts in each position. Most people think that a portfolio is just a list of stocks, right? Or a list of assets. It's not. It's actually a way of putting together a group of assets where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, okay? And that amounts to modern portfolio theory, which was founded by Harry Markowitz 70 years ago this March, right? And yet the public is completely uninformed about this revolutionary financial technology that has literally revolutionized finance, but that they don't use. So this tool helps you use it. And it's not really a secret. That's the thing, right? There's no secret here. This has been known for a long time. It's just not used by the public. And it's a mystery why the public doesn't use it, but it's not a secret. This is simple stuff that anyone can do. We're making it more accessible. We're making it well-designed and intuitive, and you can hold it in the palm of your hand, but it's not a secret. It's a mystery. It's a mystery why more people don't use it, but hopefully we're doing something about that.
I almost want to leave. It's not a secret. It's a mystery as the last line, but I will say, man, I've been with you now for a little over a year, and every time I see something like this come out, I still am blown away. I'm like,
what gets me even more excited than the portfolio that I helped build is the fact that Justin, my co-founder, he built his own portfolio almost a year ago now, and he's been investing his own money with it, and he's crushing the market. And he had never been an investor before, right? And he doesn't spend as much time as I am, like looking at markets and trying to understand what's going on, but again, it's not a secret. It's a mystery.
Now I'll let us end on that, brother. That's what I had for you, man. Very, very thankful for your time. Happy Friday, bro.
Thank you, Josh. Great talking to you as always. Thanks to everybody for listening in, and we hope to see you again in a couple of weeks.